For this tutorial, I want to walk through how we set up a brand new project in QGIS, which you're going to do a bunch of times throughout the rest of the course. And unfortunately, our lab this week is a little bit strange in the way that it uses data. So I'm going to walk through two different ways to start up a project. First, I'm going to show you the sort of typical way, the way that I would start up a project, and most people would. And then I'm going to show you the bulletproof way that you should do for this week. So starting right now, this is the normal way, but not the way to do this for your lab. So typically, the way that I would start a project, I'm here on the landing page of QGIS. I would open a layer that I want to have in my project. So I'm just going to pick a random layer on my computer. I would add it. And notice something tricky that just happened. You might need to rewind. I should have called attention to it. But in the bottom right-hand corner, our default project was on EPSG 4326. And when I brought in this data, which is a raster file, it automatically switched to EPSG 32606, which is the coordinate reference system that this file is in. So QGIS is generally smart enough to automatically switch coordinate reference systems to the system of the first file that you bring in. Not all the time. So in this case, it was smart enough to do that, and it was able to do that because they both share WGS 84. So 32606 is WGS 84 UTM Zone 6 North, and the default 4326 is WGS 84. So that means they both share the same datum, which is the way that we tie our coordinate reference system to our model of the Earth's shape. That needs to be the same. So it basically means both of these two systems have a different way of expressing coordinates on the surface, but they both have the same fundamental Earth. They both agree that the Earth is one model. Unfortunately, the lab this week has you using a different Earth model, that is the NAD 27 datum. So if I were to be doing a normal project, I would have opened my data, then I would go up here and click the save icon, and then I would give my project a name and save it wherever I want. That's the normal way, but it's not the way that works for us. So I'm going to open QGIS Fresh again and show you the way to do it for the lab this week. If QGIS ever decides it wants to open. There we go. So we're going to see if this throws an error. It may not. But I'm going to show you what happens following what I just did if I try to add the data for this week's lab. So I ask you this week to bring in some vector data files, including this airports.shape and majorrivers.shape and regions.shape. So I've held control and clicked the three of these, so that clicks all three. And then all the supporting files that come with the shape file are automatically read in. So I will go ahead and hit open and add. See, it gives me this warning. It says we need to figure out what to do with these two different coordinate systems. So the default project is in WGS 84, and the layers are in EPSG 2964, which uses the NAD 27 datum. It's called the Alaska Albers. So it's asking here, how do you want to do your transformation? It tells you the accuracy of the transformation, but also some transformations only work for certain parts of the world. Notice here it's listing areas. We don't actually want to do this at all. So we lose accuracy tremendously when we do coordinate transforms, and they also tend to distort things. So I've just gone ahead and hit cancel. It looks okay in here, but it's not ideal. So I'm going to, once again, start fresh, and this is how you need to open it, how you need to start your project for this week. So you open QGIS and you land on the landing page here. Before we do anything at all, we're going to go up to Project, Properties, and in the CRS tab over here, we're going to select the CRS of the data that we're going to bring in, or if you don't have it yet, you can type 2964 in the filter and it will pull up this coordinate system. Then you're going to hit apply, and notice in the map, this coordinate system only applies to the Alaska region and a little bit of Russia. But you can't actually use this coordinate system for the rest of the world. So it's a local coordinate system. Then I'm going to hit OK, and notice now in my project templates, it says new empty project, and it says EPSG 2964. So this means do you want to start a new project using that as your default coordinate reference system. I'm going to double click it, and now notice I'm in a blank project with the correct EPSG for this week. Now, if I were to add our vector data, notice it doesn't give me any errors. It just goes ahead and loads it in, and it doesn't ask me about transforms. And that's because our project is in the same datum and same CRS as all of our data. Now, I would just go ahead and, like before, hit save, and I would give my project a name and save it wherever I want. So that's the way you start a new project. I'm not going to cover anything else really in this video. We'll talk about symbology later. But just keep in mind that the coordinate reference system is the thing that is going to trip you up more than anything probably when you're first starting GIS. So you need your project coordinate reference system to be the same as your data files. As projects get more complicated, oftentimes you will end up bringing in multiple data sets with different coordinate reference systems, and you'll be forced to do transformations from one system to another. But we want to minimize it as much as possible, and we want to be really selective about which files we're going to transform. So for example, that big picture raster file I showed you earlier, transforming that is horrible because there's so many pixels, millions of pixels, and they all have to be warped and mathematically changed. Whereas a vector data set, it's much easier. I also just really want to quickly call attention to the fact that this says EPSG 2964. That's what we're in. That's what my data is in. Be very careful about trying to switch things willy-nilly. So for example, if I click it, I can say, well, you know, I want to be in 4326 again, and I can hit apply. It's going to get pretty mad, and if I hit cancel, you'll see that my data is missing, and if I find it now, it's super stretched. It looks awful. If I tried to bring in an imagery base map, oh gosh, yeah, everything is stretched pretty horrendously, right? Why is this way over here? It can't even load my imagery because it's just somewhere else in the world. It has no idea where it is. Yeah. So be careful. Be careful about coordinate reference systems. If you ever, oh geez. If you ever get flags like these, especially during your lab this week, this used a ballpark transform, you know something has gone haywire. So we want to avoid it as much as possible. Here we go. Now it's a little bit happier, now that I've switched back to 2964. But notice we have alignment issues, and notice this little toolbar, and when I zoom, it's not rendering things very well. It's just having a tough time aligning our files. Oh, and it does it scale dependently, which is kind of a problem. All right, so that's all that you need to know for starting a new project file for this tutorial.